What's up, everybody out in YouTube land? It's that time again. It's been like 2 weeks since we've done a podcast. We've had to work through election bullshit and all kinds of other crazy crap that's popped up over the last 2 weeks. I finally got a kind of a vacation, thank God, and got to get away for a little bit. So I'm going to get you guys caught up and up to speed on everything going on in the ketogenic bodybuilding universe. A little bit about what's going on in my world, and then we're going to go right to the topic today. And number one out of the gate, we're going to talk about fat loss, expectations versus reality, and really it's results in general. Whatever your result that you're looking for, we're going to talk about the expectations that you have versus the reality to getting there. So this should be a good one. So we're glad you're back. Without further ado, let's get this shit going. What's up, everybody? It's that time again. It's Ketogenic Bodybuilding podcast time. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin. We're also replicating this on YouTube, so check that out. It's episode, I don't even know what episode this is. I don't even know what it is. But whatever episode it is, I'm glad to be back because it's been like 2 weeks, I think. It seems like that anyway. I don't think we've hung out since the election. And so we're all kind of spinning through this election bullshit that's going on right now, and I'm definitely not going to get into that, but it's got everything, completely upside down right now and in utter chaos. And in the midst of that, since the last time we've hung out, I also got banned and completely deleted and wiped away from a very big social networking platform, which I won't even mention. Probably nearly 15 years I had that account, nearly 5,000, quote unquote friends. But it sucks because I'm very, very proud of the Ketogenic Bodybuilding Facebook group that we've built and developed over the last couple of years. And it's like a child, and it's something I'm very proud of, and I've got some fantastic individuals in there right now, and 10,000 members strong and growing. And I remade my account, and it was restricted immediately, so I'm only allowed to just kind of look around in the KGB Facebook group. So fear not, everybody out there. I am watching, and I am paying attention, and I'm seeing your posts come in, and thank God I've got some fantastic admins that are, working, a little bit of overtime right now to answer a lot of the questions. But yeah, hopefully my new account, I don't even know how this shit works, but hopefully I'll be taken out of jail soon by my calculations. I don't even know how long these things last. If it's 30 days, hopefully I'm out in early December. So until then, I'm just kind of checking stuff out, kind of silently stalking in there because I can't like things, I can't reply to things, I can't even use Messenger. So don't think I've flown the coop or abandoned everybody. I'm still looking, but it is kind of frustrating when you can't reply. At least I've got this podcast as a medium to answer some questions and keep everybody up to speed. And let me go ahead and mention a couple other things that are important. I have an incredibly talented and generous website team led by a very, very good friend of mine, and he's even one of my workout partners. And this guy, he's done so much for me over the years, and he's currently behind the scenes working on a new ketogenic bodybuilding community. And it's going to be, housed on a private server, so we will have full control of it. Nobody can ban it, block it, remove it, moderate it, censor it, none of that horse crap. I don't believe in censorship, and censorship has kind of spiraled out of control here recently, and so we wanted to be able to take control of that. So we're currently working on it. My goal for the Ketogenic Bodybuilding but the Ketogenic Bodybuilding community, just online, on the web, I want it to be a very simple and easy to use interface. Think of, just a typical online forum that you can just literally go on there and you join the forum. It's absolutely free of charge. and always will be. And you're able to, just like in a Facebook group or like in a MeWe group or whatever you do, you can post topics, you can have different discussions going on, and you can interact with other friends and members of the group. So it is currently under construction, and not only will it have general forums where we can discuss everything related to training and nutrition and competition and supplementation and just general this and that, but we can even have some other cool little group things going on there and have different subgroups of people. And I don't even know all the shit that it does, but I'm just getting some feedback right now from my web guy, because I'm not the most techie guy in the world. It's a damn miracle I'm even able to do this podcast and a YouTube channel, for God's sake. So as soon as this thing's up, I spoke with my web guy today, and we're kind of, it's up and it's running, but we've got to make it look pretty. We've got to brand it. We've got to, work the bugs out of it. And I'm giving him a lot of feedback on that. And when we feel like it's ready to roll, then we're going to launch it, and we're hoping that will be somewhere around Thanksgiving, so maybe later next week. So that is my hope, that we can have this thing launched by around Thanksgiving. It'd be really cool if we could, have like a Thanksgiving or like a Black Friday release date of the new Ketogenic Bodybuilding community. And I urge everyone to show their support of the First Amendment, or if you are against censorship in any way, shape, or form, and you want a free thought and ideas community where you don't have to worry about being, looked at by Big Brother, then I certainly hope that everybody will jump on board and become part of the new community. So I'll be giving you more updates. Here's the other thing about the new Ketogenic Bodybuilding community that I'm excited about, and I'm also going to give you kind of a promise. Because it's going to be our own little play place, our own little playground where we don't have to worry about anybody looking over our shoulders. My promise to you is, for you jumping on board over there, is I'm going to be more active in that community than I ever have been in any other platform. I want to make it worth your time to be over there. So I'll be answering more questions. I'll have the opportunity to, post data and research, and I'll be definitely doing more video content. Now that I've got the YouTube channel running again, I've got this camera set up in my office. It's always just literally, I can push a button at any moment, get behind the mic and talk and relay information to you. So I'll be doing a lot more video uploads in this new Ketogenic Bodybuilding community, because I think a lot of times if I can, not only just explain it to you, like if you're typing something, but if I can express it to you in a video format, then sometimes that translates even better. So anyway, it's just, we're going to take this shitty situation that we were dealt, that was beyond our control by these big technocrats, and we're going to take hold of the reins, and we're going to control this ourselves, and we're not going to let anybody dictate to us what we can or cannot do. That's not to say the community is going to be the Wild Wild West. We'll still have some basic rules. We don't want anybody, acting shitty in there or attacking anybody. So as long as you behave yourself, you can still feel free to express yourself any way you like and be free of censorship. So that's the goal. So we want to have an ever-evolving flow of ideas, and we don't want you to have any fear of reprisal from somebody ripping you apart if you have an alternative view to something, especially if it relates to training, nutrition, and so on. So anyway, I think that covers that. So I will be giving you updates on a very regular basis. When I know of the launch date of the Ketogenic Bodybuilding new online community, I will actually shoot another video. If I'm not out of jail yet, then I'll have one of my lovely and talented admins at the Ketogenic Bodybuilding Facebook group post the video where I can explain how it works, give you the URL so you can get there, get signed up, and get cranking on that thing. So we're pretty excited to do that. Also, since I got banned from a particular social media website, my Instagram traffic has increased dramatically. So I'd love to have you follow me on Instagram, and I'm going to be more active there now in the coming weeks and months. And that's simply at The Real Rob Goodwin. That is my handle on Instagram, so I invite you to follow me on Instagram. That would be awesome. So look forward to seeing you on there. So, okay, onward. This last, it took me a little longer to get to this episode of whatever it is of this podcast, because not only was I dealing with that and dealing with the repercussions and working on the community, but I also, thank God, got to have a few days off. A very generous, loving client of mine sort of came out of the blue and said, hey, you want to use the beach house for 3 or 4 days? And I'm like, yes, I absolutely do. So I took that opportunity and ran with it. So this past weekend, my wife and I got to sort of run away from the world, and we escaped to the beach in South Carolina, that Myrtle Beach area, sort of North Myrtle Beach, where we literally went on a media blackout and really didn't turn on any news of any kind. And apart from checking occasional emails and messages, I really wasn't online at all. We basically just laid around and relaxed and ate good food and just had a very relaxing time spending time together. So that was a wonderful getaway. Got to go to one of our favorite dive bars in North Myrtle Beach, and I want to give a shout out to Bimini's. If you know anything about the North Myrtle Beach area, it's a cool little dive bar. They've got the best just fried, fish plates and, great drinks and wonderful atmosphere and fantastic people. The owner's a super cool guy. The entire staff is super cool. And what I love about the place is the second time I've been there this year since this whole, air quotes, pandemic thing has happened. And once again, we were immediately told that we did not, in any way, shape, or form, were we required to wear the sinister identity concealment device, also known as a mask. So we were able to exercise our personal freedoms and enjoy our afternoon and our food and our drinks and time with others, and it was just a really, really great experience. So it was a wonderful getaway for me, and I really enjoyed it. But now we're back. Now we're back to work. Here we are doing a podcast, so let's get right down to it. Basically, the title of today's podcast was going to be, with the few notes that I did take, and I rarely do more than just a handful of scribbly notes, but is about basically fat loss, expectations versus reality. And I guess it doesn't even necessarily have to be fat loss. It could be more, results. Whatever goal you have and whatever results that you're looking to achieve, whatever vision you have in your head of that body or that physique that you're trying to develop and sculpt, and whatever the case may be, everybody has their expectations, and that's compared with the reality of situation. And oftentimes the two are sharply divided. There's a huge sort of a gulf, or this huge chasm between the expectations versus the reality of how you get there. And there are a lot of things at fault here, and a lot of it we have to blame ourselves, but a lot of it we have to blame the industry that we're inundated with, that we're brainwashed by. And currently, at least the last time I checked and looked at some, I remember actually doing speaking engagements literally back in the early 2000s, like right around 2004, 2005. I would do a lot of nutrition and training public speaking engagements. And I remember quoting back then that fitness, collectively, the diets, the gadgets, the programs, the potions, the pills, the powders, all the stuff, collectively at that time was a $50 billion a year industry. Now, according to the last time I looked at some of the figures, it's an estimated $72 billion, that's with a B, $1 billion that we collectively invest in the pursuit of developing the body that we desire, the image that we have in our head, the quest for the reflection that we're looking for in the mirror. So, but the sad thing is, the failure rate is still the same today as it was back then, and that hovers somewhere around 98%. So if any industry out there, if I was asking you to look at any other industry that had a roughly 97 to 98% failure rate, you'd think, how can this business stay afloat? How can it stay valid in the marketplace at all? And it wouldn't. But when you talk about fitness, or you talk about the beauty industry, if you talk about the pharmaceutical industry, these industries are rife with deceit and lies, and it's more about profits than it is about success. I mean, let's face it, when the editors and the board members of popular fitness magazines sit around, the conference table, sort of putting together marketing plans for the next issue, they're not all sitting around, concerned that, oh gosh, we got to make sure that everybody out there is getting results and they're succeeding and they're looking great and they're feeling great because that's just our mission. No, they need to make sure that their bottom line is met. They got to make sure that they're getting the advertising dollars that they need to fill their pockets and impress the shareholders and keep the company afloat. That's why most of the things that you see in the magazines today are just regurgitated stories that you've already read, regurgitated workout programs, regurgitated diets, things you've seen that have been out there for years that have just been given a new name, a shiny new package, and they're going to be rebroadcast back out to you, and you're going to soak it up like a sponge. And that's the bad thing, because in an industry that has a 98% failure rate, we end up typically blaming ourselves when we ought to be giving equal blame to the technology that we're applying and, finally admit the fact that, hey, all of this hokey bullshit is just that. It's bullshit, right? But we don't learn from our mistakes and we continue to fall into that same trap over and over and over again. It all comes down, people, and I hope that the overwhelming majority of the people listening to me right now already know that if you want success in building your body, you have to have very strict dietary compliance for a very long time. You have to train hard in the gym for a very long time, consistently. You have to engage in some cardiovascular activity, depending on the goal. You have to get proper, adequate, and consistent recovery. These things have to be constantly cycled consistently, day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out. And then, sadly, or, I guess depending on who you are, genetics plays a huge role, as does former lifestyle. How much, metabolic damage have you, incurred over the years or whatever. So many things come into play, but the tried and true basics are still what works. Hard work, effort, and the word that nobody wants to hear, patience. You have to have a huge, huge dose of patience if you want to succeed, because it's going to take a long time. How long? I will discuss that, and I've got some beliefs that I feel very strongly about in terms of duration, how long it takes. But why is it maybe? And here's a big maybe, because nobody really knows to a degree, except maybe you deep down in your heart of hearts, or maybe somebody like a coach that you're working very closely with who does know a lot of the intimate details about your life and truly does know about your dietary compliance. One of the things that I'm fortunate in is that in my coaching business, I have a very powerful tool in the app that I use that clients can track their macros. That's tough to fake that. It really is. I mean, I guess obviously you could put in all the good shit and not put in the bad shit and then blame me because you're not losing the amount of weight that you wanted to lose or body fat that you wanted to lose. But at the end of the day, it's on you, because I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you solid macros that are going to either put you in a deficit or a surplus. So you're either putting on lean muscle or you're dropping body fat and getting that shredded lean body that you want. So you can manipulate that, but then you're just being dishonest with yourself. But there's so many psychological things that flow into this too. But nobody knows exactly, specifically down to the finite point of exactly why things take longer for some than it does for others. I mean, we all know that person in your circle that you are around that can eat anything they want and never gain a pound and always be lean and always look whatever. And yes, we hate that person. But so what? It's that person. It's not you. Don't concern yourself with what others are doing or what genetic blessings that they may have. You focus on your damn self, because you have to be solely focused on you, because what others can do plays no bearing on what you can do. You have to roll your damn sleeves up and you got to get to work. And it's harder than you think it is. And that's the thing nobody ever wants to hear. Getting the body that you have in your head is harder than you think it is. And I try to tell everybody this. I've got 80 plus clients online right now. I've been so blessed beyond measure, it's ridiculous. And so many of the people I work with are such fantastic people. And, thank you for everything that you even give back to me and make my life so rewarding. But it happens all the time. And I don't hold anything against these people. It's not for everybody, but, inevitably somebody signs up with me. I've had people literally go through 2 weeks of training in nutrition. And they will message me and say, I just can't do this. This isn't for me. And my reply typically is, hey, I'm sorry to hear that. Fair enough. That's cool. It's not for everybody. You just may not be in that place in your life where you can put that much into this, because what you're discovering is the real path to success, not the one you're trying to be sold by some snake oil salesman or an infomercial, but the real path to success is, number one, about hard ass work. And I'm dealing out doses of hard ass work every single day through the workouts, through the cardio consistency, and through, dietary compliance that I'm asking you to, stand by every single day and keep tracking those nutrients and calories into the app every day. It's not easy, and sometimes it's monotonous and it's a pain in the ass, but hey, you came to me with a goal, and I'm trying to make you achieve that goal, and I'm giving you the true path to achieving that goal. And then you and I have to sort of be lockstep together. We got to travel the same path, and we got to get you there. So with that said, that's a lot of setup, I get it, but I'm trying to really prepare you for the fact that, and I'll say it again, getting that magazine cover body that you have in your head, or the Instagram chick that you follow, or the pro bodybuilder or physique competitor, or Brad Pitt in Fight Club, whatever it is so much harder to get to that point than you can possibly imagine. And there are some people that can put in that work and walk that path, and there are some people that just aren't conditioned yet to get there. And you got to work on that aspect of your life first, or at least work on it equally as hard while you're walking through that journey through the programming. So it's harder than you think it is. So to understand that, number one. Now, why do people fail to get the results? So what we're going to do now is we're going to walk through the basics of how you lose body fat, briefly about how you build muscle, and why it may not be going so well right out of the gate, and little things you can do to possibly fix that, or more importantly, maybe you need to look at yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself and have a little come to Jesus talk with yourself and correct some things in your head, not necessarily so much with your actions, because how your head works dictates your actions on a daily basis. So, what are some of the steps that we need to take to make sure that we understand how results work, and then work through some of the difficulties of actually getting there? Okay, so first, in order to get results and understand the dynamic between expectations versus realities, we have to understand how this shit works. So you're going to hear, especially in the ketogenic world, if you're coming from that super high fat, moderate to low protein, low carb keto world, the butter sugar keto world where everybody's consuming way too much fat. And I understand there are certain therapeutic needs in a very small, extremely small portion of the population, or, there are just some people that works okay with for dropping body fat, but not so well for gaining lean mass. But there are some people that just don't give a shit about that. So, but going over the basics of this, we're drilled in our heads in that super high fat therapeutic keto world that it's all about insulin. It's all about hormones. That calories don't matter. Calories in, calories out is a antiquated theory. It's a myth. It doesn't work. Well, unfortunately, as much as I would like that to be the case, because it would make everybody's life a little easier if it was just about controlling insulin, because controlling insulin is not that hard. And one of the great benefits about a ketogenic style diet is you can really reduce hunger and cravings and get this great mental acuity, and it would make it far easier even on myself if it were just about insulin and controlling that, because in my mind that's fairly easy to control. Now I understand there are certain populations out there, people who have sustained a lot of severe metabolic damage and they may be already insulin resistant and have some major issues there, and yes, I understand that. Then it can cause a great problem. But even then, in that situation, calories still matter. If you're trying to drop body fat, it's still about energy balance. It's still about calories in versus calories out. Think of it as that is step one. Step one, making sure that if you're trying to lose body fat, you're in a legitimate caloric deficit, and then you consume macros in the right percentages and in the right amount of grams that gets you to that unique caloric ceiling that is in a deficit under your total daily energy expenditure. Make sense? I mean, thermodynamics is still a thing. Calories still matter. So don't let anyone think that it doesn't. And there is so much overwhelming evidence out there in the scientific world. As much as I would love to agree with some of those people out on the fringe and say, yeah, it's just about hormones, sadly, it's not. Hormones do come into play, but nothing's going to work in terms of body fat reduction if you don't get a handle on energy balance. So, for instance, if you're trying to drop body fat, and that is your number one goal, you'd better be in a caloric deficit by a couple hundred calories typically. Now you can go lower and get more aggressive, but then you start flirting with some issues in terms of maybe the reduction of lean body mass. You might feel like shit. It's more difficult to control hunger. If you go too deep, you can have some hormonal dysregulation if you stay in a deep, super aggressive cut for too long. And I've had some people come to me that is one of the reasons why they're not getting the sort of speedier results that they were expecting, because I've had people come to me that have been eating in a severe caloric deficit and starving themselves and having borderline eating disorders and binge and purge people that come to me at a point where they have so much hormonal dysfunction and their metabolisms are so wrecked that the best thing that some people could do before they work into a more aggressive caloric deficit or a cut would be to add some calories, add a little more fat back in their diet, sort of take a diet break for a while, work on restoring their health and their hormonal balance and all these things. And then once things, kind of get back to normal, you get some blood work done, you maybe even get a hormonal panel done with your doctor. And then when everything is looking like, okay, I'm a normal functioning human being again, that's not completely shot, now I'm going to do everything right. Now I'm going to do everything like I mentioned in, earlier in the podcast, where I said you've got to train hard, you've got to, have, dietary compliance, very strict dietary compliance. You got to throw in some cardio. You got to get proper recovery. All these things. But sometimes before you embark on the hard basics, big four things that it takes to get lean and get jacked and ripped and whatever, maybe sometimes you got to sort of reset the thermostat and get your body back to a baseline of health and hormonal regulation first. So even though, in my opinion, that's not most people, that does come into play, and I have come across some clients that this has been the case. And I have people that come to me that they've been in a caloric deficit for like 9 months. They've not been doing things right. Their macros are all over the damn place, or maybe it's way too low fat for way too long, or whatever. and things are just falling apart, and a lot of things come into play there. So I'll bring them back up to maintenance calories, or maybe even a slight surplus, maybe by 100 calories, and just get them back to normal functioning human being again, and take that diet break and sort of de-stress a little bit and bring that cortisol down from the stress of gotta lose weight, gotta lose weight, gotta lose weight. And then we bring them back into that deficit properly with a more structured game plan. And then the dominoes seem to start to fall, and things fall into place for them. So one of the things that it could be is, there is a place for hormonal dysfunction in some people. There is a place for, for instance, let's take testosterone in men. I have had guys in their 30s, literally in their 30s, come to me and have testosterone numbers that are like around 200, 100 and some. And that just blows me away. But then if you look into the client's history, tons of fast food, tons of seed oils, tons of sugar and processed foods, way too much alcohol consumption, not enough rest, not enough sleep, no serious exercise. They're just complete freaking wrecks internally. So we've got to bring them back just to a point of health, because guys, if you're not, if you don't have proper testosterone numbers, it's going to be difficult, nearly impossible to build muscle, burn body fat the way you want to burn it, and develop the physique that you want. You can try lifting all the weights in the world, but you're just going to get discouraged very, very quickly when things don't start falling into place, because you haven't taken the steps to regain some semblance of health because of maybe, having a decade or so of just completely wrecking yourself. And that all goes back into being patient. I'm going to talk about that more in a second. But so understand if you could have, wrecked hormonal dysfunction from just extremely poor lifestyle. And if you're coming into, doing things right, sometimes you have to reset that thermostat first. So you can have that hormonal dysfunction. You can have that wrecked metabolism. So get things straight first. Get some blood work done. Maybe even get a hormonal panel done just for peace of mind, and know that, okay, everything's in check. It's sitting there right in front of me. It's all good under the hood. Now I'm ready to do this right and start cranking out some hard workouts, some consistent cardio, and getting my macros back on track. So, all right, so other things that could be happening, if it's not the wrecked body situation, which often it's not always the case. Like, some people like that, and that's a relatively quick fix. We can get people feeling pretty good pretty fast again, just with some good nutrition in their bodies, some healthy omega-3, healthy oils, nice, meats and veggies and all these good things. So, we can build that back up, ease them into some good exercise, and start to build the body back up, and sort of get ready to build up to that point where we say, okay, it's ready to now fire on all cylinders and take this to 100%. It could also be, and this is what it usually is, and this is going to offend some people. Oh, how dare you accuse me of that? But oftentimes, more than anything, it's compliance. Now, to be fair, there are some people that may not truly understand that it's compliance. They think they're doing things right, but a lot of my clients, if I'm being honest, are guilty of not communicating with me enough. Now, I've got 80 some clients, and I'm always watching, I'm always looking at their macros, I'm seeing how their workouts are going, but it's not like I'm going to message every single person every single day and say, yo, man, what's up? Hey, how's it going? How are things? How's the weather? However, if you have a question about anything regarding your program, anything regarding your training, your nutrition, your supplementation, your cardio, your macros, any of that stuff, ask the questions, deal with me, talk to me. Let me talk you off the ledge if you're about to go do something completely ridiculous that's going to just wreck your diet for the day. And I'll help walk you through it. I've done this 1,000 times with clients, so that's no big deal. But compliance is often the thing that what makes people fall short. And what falls under those categories of compliance? Number one, it could be very improper tracking. I really hate it when somebody messages me, client or non-client. I get a lot of messages from non-clients, which is fine. I welcome anybody to reach out. But I like it when people say, I'm not getting the results, it's not working, and then I'll say, tell me about your tracking of your macros. Well, I'm not tracking. Or I just tracked for the first week, I got a really good idea of what a good week looks like, and now I'm just doing it intuitively. Well, you know what? I can do it intuitively for the most part, but I've been doing this shit for 25 years. I know my body. I can look in the mirror day by day and know I need to make an adjustment, I need to hold to stay the course, or I need to do this, I need to do that. Most people are not fine-tuned to do that, okay? And, in other words, there's a whole psychological component and I think everybody can relate to this to a degree, even myself. And a lot of physique competitors can really relate to this. What we see in the mirror is very different, oftentimes, to what others see. You ever notice that when you do start dropping in body fat and making some serious changes, that we're always the last ones to notice by looking at ourselves because we have such a critical eye. And there's so much going on in our heads. There's so much internal dialogue that's almost talking us out of being happy with ourselves and seeing those changes. But you walk into the office, or you walk into the classroom, or you walk up to a family member or a friend or a gym buddy, and they're like, wow, you're losing weight. You're looking good. You're like, really? You didn't notice it, but they did. So our minds really play tricks on us all the time because that's just the way that we've been programmed over the years. But dietary compliance through improper tracking is often a big thing. So I encourage you to really jump back on board with tracking, and also track your tracking. Just because MyFitnessPal says this particular food at this serving size has this many calories, this much protein, this much fat, and this much carbs, check it yourself. Double check it. Weigh it. Pay close attention to it. See if there are 2 or 3 different people that have put that food in there and the numbers are all different across the board. Check the original packaging from the manufacturer or the farm or the whatever, the butcher or whatever. Really try to do your own homework. I'm more of I take a picture of the barcode if it's something in a package, and then I flip the package over and I make absolutely sure that my serving size is exactly correct according to the recommended serving size. If it's double, then I just double the math. Some people literally just trust that what they're scanning or what they're putting in and I've literally had people not pay any attention to serving sizes. You'd be shocked at how many people don't do this. Just because they scan it doesn't mean that it's accounting for the right serving size for you. I mean, the serving size on the package could be 4 ounces of this particular meat, and you're eating 12 ounces of it, and you're wondering why things aren't working. I know this sounds simplistic, and you're like, who the hell would do that? Well, a lot of people do that. So make sure, track your tracking, double check your tracking, hold yourself accountable with your nutrient tracker that you use. So, take a week and just make sure that you audit your macros tracker. All my clients use MyFitnessPal, so and I think we can use Fitbit now, but audit that tracker and just double check the math on that and make sure that 2 + 2 is really equaling 4, and that's exactly what you're putting in your body, because I've had people just kind of go willy-nilly on this stuff, and then shit goes off the rails and they want to know why, and it was like, oh well, just because you scanned it doesn't mean that that's what you ate. So check your trackers, audit your trackers. Here's another one that drives me incredibly crazy. There is this psychological phenomenon, and it's a real thing. It really is. And if I'm being honest, I've even done it a few times, but then I know I'm doing it, so I laugh at myself. But it happens around the holidays especially, but how many times you're tracking your meals, your legit meals, and you breeze by your 5-year-old's French fries or chicken nugget and you grab one and you eat, or you grab one of this, or you take your kid's plate away and they left 2 or 3 of that and you nibble on that, or you go by the candy tray. While you have a candy tray, I have no idea, but you grab 3 M&Ms, and then 2 hours later you grab 4 M&Ms, and then 3 hours later you grab 3 more M&Ms. Well, you think to yourself, these aren't my meals, this isn't what I track, this is such a tiny thing, it's not really going to make a difference. Well, I encourage you to add all that shit up and see where you land at the end of the day in excess calories and excess sugar and excess carbohydrate and excess whatever, excess fats, and especially with some of the things that you nibble on that you know are bad, that you sort of have this mindset that if nobody saw me do it, it didn't happen. Well, most of those foods are the sugar fat combination foods that are the absolute worst things you can put in your body, that heighten your your desire to eat more and crave more, and it just sends things off into the weeds. So it's I know for a fact there's somebody sitting out there laughing at themselves right now saying, you know what, yeah, I do that. I've got to, I got to check myself before I wreck myself. So it's happening. Recognize these little psychological issues that you may have, and understand that, remember what I said, this is the hardest thing you're ever going to do. So it's going to take an effort greater than you've ever put forth before in your life. Besides the nibbling that nobody counts and nobody keeps track of, I got to throw out, my alcohol, my wine thing. And I've mentioned this before. I don't know if I brought it up in a podcast. Maybe I did. I've got clients that track their food great. They comply. Yet they'll have that 2 glasses of wine a night. And you know how alcohol goes. That 2 glasses of wine may turn into 4 glasses of wine or a half a bottle of wine. And then they justify that by saying, well, I've got to have that glass or 2 of wine every night to cope with what's going on in my life. Especially now that I'm doing this stressful diet and these hard workouts, and now my time is even less, and I've got more of a strain on my life, and with the kids and the work and the this and the that, and now it's working out, and now it's the macros and the diet, and I'm hungry and I'm craving, and I need to take the edge off, and 1 glass of wine becomes 2, and then it's not like those 2 glasses of wine or those 3 glasses of wine are going to make it onto my Fitness Pal. Here's the issue, Pumpkin. If you need 2 to 3 glasses of wine every night to cope with what's going on in your universe right now, you don't need a trainer. You need a 12-step program. You need a therapist, because you can run into some real problems there. And I've mentioned this before, and it's not just the women in their wine or whatever, their cocktail or whatever, but it's the guys in their beer, or their guys in their, I gotta have a Jack and Coke, or whatever the hell the case may be. If you're not willing to give up drinking with the guys 2 nights, 3 nights a week, or having those 2 beers every night after a stressful day at work, you're not ready for any of this shit. There's no place in bodybuilding for alcohol. You know how I feel about the term bodybuilding. That's anybody out there trying to make a positive change in their life through hard training, hard nutrition, and hard compliance to a hardcore badass lifestyle. So 1 night a week, if you want to have 2 fingers full of good bourbon to celebrate a hard-ass week, I do that myself. And let me tell you this right now. If I'm into a cut and I'm 8 weeks out, 10 weeks out, there's no alcohol for me. I don't take any damn chances. All right? So I suck it up because I have a goal. You have a goal? Well, don't screw it up by drinking yourself out of that goal, because you got to cope with your lifestyle. Either you can handle this lifestyle or you can't. If you can't, then you need to come to grips with yourself and make some changes in your life to where you can cope with it and you are ready to jump on the road to walk down that hard path to get the results that you're looking for. So that's all I'm going to say about this alcohol thing, but that just drives me crazy because it comes up more often than not. And again, an occasional drink, fine. An occasional weekend with friends, you have a couple of drinks. When a client comes to me and says, hey, I'm going to be with some friends this weekend, is it okay if I have some vodka and seltzer or what? I'm like, absolutely. Have a little fun. Just don't drink over the course of days and days, or have 7 drinks over the weekend. Yeah, that's going to come back to haunt you. Remember, alcohol has, straight liquor, for example. If you're going to have something, that's probably the best, because there technically isn't carbohydrate involved, but there is calories involved. And what do we say? It's energy balance. And if you're coming close to reaching your caloric ceiling, Well, alcohol has roughly 7 calories per gram, and your body deals with alcohol not in the digestive tract, but right through the stomach lining into the bloodstream, and it has to deal with that first before it gets to other real macros. And you're going to process that alcohol not in a good way. You ever heard the term beer belly? Well, yes, a lot of that comes from the sugar and the yeast and the hops and the carbohydrates involved, but the alcohol, there's calories there too, and it does have to be metabolized. So don't forget that. Just because it's bourbon or vodka doesn't mean it's void of all calories. It's like some magical beverage that just disappears in your body and takes you to Happyville, okay? So you got to deal with that shit too. So be very mindful of that. So, the thing of it is I want to go back to patience and consistency, just to wrap this thing up and make you understand. And then you can deal with these issues. And if you have other concerns, you can contact me on this. I'd love to hear your concerns or what you may be dealing with, and maybe we can come to some conclusions. But, here's the thing. It takes time. Now, I'm going to make another statement that's going to piss some of you off. How long does it take? Sometimes I'm afraid to tell people this because I know how people are. People's impatience drives me crazy. And we're all impatient to a degree, of course. But, and when you're making an investment in your body and your health and you're trying to achieve something, if you're trying to look like, the 3% of the population that look like badasses, you better be willing to invest everything. You better be all in. You better push all the chips on the table and say, I am all in on this, or it's not going to work. I tell everyone, regardless of your goal, 1 year. Regardless. Some of you, more than 1 year. I don't know what that is. It depends on the individual. If I got somebody coming to me that's morbidly obese, it may take longer. But even if I say 2 years, let's say if you got 100 pounds to lose, and we can get 50 off in the first year and add 20 pounds of muscle, you better be ecstatic with that. And we know we're halfway, or maybe we can change the timeline based on your badass effort or your genetics or whatever. But what I am telling everybody right now is give everyone a year. I don't care how lean you are out of the gate. I don't care how muscular you are out of the gate. Give yourself a year to achieve the perfection that you're looking for, that genetic perfection, achieving that genetic potential. Because not only do you need to lose the weight or add the muscle or whatever it takes for you, but there's about tweaking it and perfecting it and making it your best. We all go through this. I mean, at my leanest for competition, state, I'm still looking at myself saying, okay, I'm low digits body fat, but I still need to bring out some here. I need to take a little bit off my love handles, because that's where I hold my excess fat, or maybe my glutes are holding onto some, and or maybe my hamstring glute tie-in is not separated, or maybe I don't have that definition up in my traps that I'm looking for. So it's going to take time, no matter who you are, no matter what your goals are. So you got to give yourself a year, no matter what. Okay, regardless of the goal, because what that does is that sets you up to at least you have in your head, regardless of where you're at, regardless of what has happened. If you beat a year and you're looking in the mirror and saying, I don't think I could get any better than this, I'm so freaking happy, I can't stand it, and you do it in 8 months, congratulations. If you're at a year and you're 2 months away from being where you want to be, hey, you only got 2 more months to go, or a month to go, whatever. If you get into the mindset of, I'm giving myself 1 year out of my life to achieve the best possible physique that I can possibly build, that's a damn good investment. Because especially if you've spent a decade of neglect and now we can completely reverse that in a year, that's a damn good deal the way I see it. So if you're trying to drive from, DC to California, guess what? Yeah, there are a lot of different ways to get to California from DC, but at the end of the day, whatever it takes is whatever it takes. It's not like you can get there like that if you're driving. Whatever it takes is whatever it takes. Deal with it, be patient, and know that you're going to get to that coast of California at some point. It may take a little longer than you thought, or maybe not going to take quite as long as you thought, or maybe you found a better path, but it's still going to take some time to drive from DC to California. So have that patience and that understanding that regardless of how long it takes, I know at some point I'm going to reach the coastline. And that's how you got to look at this whole diet, nutrition, training, game plan. give yourself a year, and then tweak the numbers as we get there. Does that make sense? Okay. I think that kind of covers that. So before we stop the podcast today, I do want to at least cover, let's say, 2 questions. I did get some questions, so let's cover those. Okay, so let's move on to some questions. I don't want to take this, what do I always say? I don't want to take this too long, hour and a half later. I do have a page of questions, and I can always continue these. And I'm actually thinking about doing like, I don't know, tell me what you think, but I'm thinking about maybe like on one podcast have a topic, like today, expectations versus reality, and then the next podcast, questions. Then the next podcast, I don't know. I'm kind of playing with formats here, so if you have an opinion on that, please let me know. That way we don't take them too long. But I do want to cover a couple questions. I've got some that I got from the Ketogenic Bodybuilding Facebook group back when I was able to access shit there. So now I'm not allowed. They slapped me on the wrist and said no. But so anyway, I'm going to cover a couple questions. And this first question, speaking of videos, I need to do a video on this because it's something that's near and dear to me. It's very, very important to me. It's a big, big deal to me, and that's the mind-muscle connection. And the question is this. It says, I've been starting to really get into the mindset of thinking of the muscle I'm working while lifting. And it's been great to really feel the target muscle working. Can you touch on mind-muscle connection and any tips as a coach and athlete in getting a stronger connection, especially, says, when it comes to the quads? But yeah, I do want to cover that. Now, unfortunately, with the quads, legs are one of those things where you don't necessarily have to think and make a mind-muscle connection. I think the exception to that might be maybe like a Romanian deadlift. You do really have to dial that in because you can make the critical mistake of bowing the spine and not really getting into the hamstrings and glutes, where that movement should be you actually pushing the hips back and pivoting over at the hips to create the hamstrings elongating and then contracting when you come back up. But these are visual cues that I would really need to do a video on, and there's so many that I want to cover, especially with back. With quads, I mean, if you hammer out heavy squats, if you do Bulgarian split squats, if you do lunges, if you do heavy leg presses, leg extensions, with a hard contraction at the top to failure, and all of these things, you're going to be hammering your quads, period. There's no two ways about it. There's not a whole lot of neuro linking you got to do there to hit. You just have to work your ass off with legs. However, when you start getting into upper body movements, especially posterior muscles like the back. Now back is my favorite muscle group to train. And like most people, I rarely felt my lats, my rhomboids contracting and really taking the brunt of the resistance that I was trying to apply to it. So it took me literally years to develop it. Now, like if I'm doing a rowing movement, for example, like think of a seated cable row or a pull down, like a cable pull down, or it could even be like a bent over row. I can now take any amount of weight. I can, like if I'm demonstrating a rowing movement to a client, I could literally put the pin in 20 pounds on the stack, like literally no weight, like toddler weight, okay? And I can demonstrate that seated rowing movement, and I can feel my lats just lighting up, inflating and deflating, contracting, squeezing. I can link to my lats and rhomboids so well now, I can literally almost make them seize and cramp. And it took a long time for me to develop that. And I think it does for a lot of people, and a lot of clients echo that. But then it's a really exciting thing when they start to really dial in that connection between their mind and their back. And I can give one tip on making your back, feeling those back movements, and that's when, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to move my arms through the air, but maybe it'll make more sense. And if you're listening to a podcast, maybe check out the YouTube version for shits and giggles. But if you're doing a rowing movement, Most people aren't really thinking about that connection, so they're pulling from their hands. So they've got their hand on a grip or on a bar, and they pull, doing that rowing movement or that pulling down movement. Well, don't think of pulling from the hand. Think of pulling from the elbow. So if I'm doing a rowing movement, I'm not doing this. I'm just, if most people are literally, instigating the movement more with forearms and biceps, but when I do it, I pull from the elbow, and I literally, just right here, pulling my arm through the air, I can feel my right lower lat muscle inflating and getting bigger. So think about pulling from the elbow and letting your back pull that weight into the contracted position. Start with maybe a little bit lighter weight and feel that contraction happen. But with every muscle group that you do, especially above the waist, chest, back especially, make sure that you're really feeling that. Like on a bench press or a pressing movement, keep that chest lifted, keep that shoulder girdle back, and don't let the shoulders extend at the top of the movement. Keep them back. Let the chest contract. Because if you bring your shoulder girdle forward, you can literally grab your pectoral muscle and it's loose and flabby, but your front delts are now hard as rocks. So keep that shoulder girdle back. You can extend the arm fully, but don't let the shoulders follow at the top of the movement. Another thing I like to do is with triceps. Range of motion is everything for me with a lot of body parts. And with triceps, if I'm getting into that contracted position, I'm literally locking out that elbow and squeezing that tricep with everything that I have. And that's a very, very important thing for me too. You're not going to see me, shorting it on a tricep movement. I want to feel those three heads of the tricep contract with everything I have and almost cramp because of the force of that contraction. And that's how you bring that out. Okay, so yes. Focus on that mind-muscle connection. Make sure that you are really dialed into what you're doing with the weight that you're moving through space, that you're connected to it. Another thing that I'm doing, a little tip, is on my grip, I try not to do a death grip on anything. Just enough grip to keep the bar from coming out of my hands. This way I can really focus on that pulling or on that pressing, and I'm not concerned with this death grip, and I'm not just inadvertently putting that force back into the arms. Obviously, if you're doing a pressing movement, you're going to get some indirect tricep and shoulder involvement. And if you're doing, back movements, you're going to get that indirect bicep and forearm activation as well. So, really mentally focus in that the back muscles are doing the work and the arms are just straps connecting you to the weight, point A to point B, to where you can use your back or you can use your chest to make that contraction. I hope that makes sense. Again, I got to do a video on this, and because I do have some cool cues that I use, and if you see these in action, I think it would make some more sense. So I'm going to put that on my to-do list. So great question, and to put a fine point on that question, yes. Critical that you do that. Pay attention to that. Work on that with every single workout. It's not just about moving weight from point A to point B. It's about allowing your muscles to move that weight in a controlled manner. One of the things I hate about CrossFit is they are fantastic at moving weight from point A to point B, and oftentimes they don't ever lift anything. They don't lower anything. They use momentum way too much. You never want that to become a factor. So it's not about momentum. Momentum and gravity can be your biggest foes in the gym, so you want the muscle moving the weight through space. I often say you can't do a movement too slow, but you can definitely do it too fast. So think about that as well. So great question. The next, question I want to get through. This one says the effects of heavy, intense training on libido. Yeah, I just asked that. I think it's a she. I just asked that, asking for a friend, aren't we all? So let me go ahead and tell you now, obviously, we'd all be lying to ourselves if we didn't think that, libido is a concern. But the cool thing is, we all want to please our partners. We all want to have a phenomenal relationship, and that intimacy that we have with our partners is critical. And it's one of the little things that makes life so special and makes relationships so special. And I'm sure my wife would agree. So I'm sure, she wants me to keep lifting heavy things. Yeah, it is unquestionable, proven scientific fact that if you're trying to increase, like in men, if you're trying to increase testosterone, women too, they have a small amount of testosterone too, and it's important to have it. You lifting heavy weight definitely helps produce more testosterone. And a ketogenic or primal style diet definitely plays a role. People that are consuming these processed food diets, fast food, crap, garbage, if you're not getting healthy omega-3 oils in your body, healthy saturated fats, some of the best things for increasing testosterone and libido would be things like red meat, egg yolks, all of these things, the things that we eat. So yeah, I mean, I've definitely over the years, this has become all too common to where I don't even think about it anymore. It's just a given that I will have. I actually had an older gentleman. This was maybe 3 years ago. I was doing a lot of in-person ketogenic diet consultations, getting people, walking them through how this stuff works and how to get them set up. And I did one for a gentleman who had very low testosterone, had been abusing himself for years. And I walked him through it. I gave him the diet. I had him start lifting some weights. And he literally comes back into the gym unannounced weeks later, maybe like a couple of months later. And he brings me to the back, and he's got this smile on his face. He's like, he just wanted to let me know that things were going well, and he appreciated it. He's lost some weight, and he said, "Let me ask you a question." His voice kind of went down. He's like, "Is it normal when you're eating like this, and to for the big fella to kind of start waking up?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, hell yeah, it's normal, and not only is it normal, but it's expected." And he's just like, "Well, hell yeah, this was a fantastic." Unexpected benefit from all this. And I said, well, there you go. You're welcome. So, yeah, and things like that happen all the time. So, yeah, for sure, you're going to get benefit in that department. And let's see. We got time to do one more. Okay, let's do one more. I got one more question I want to do today. Then I'll let you guys go. I'm a little over an hour, so I want to dial it back. Let's see. In a bulking phase, trying to put on muscle, if I lift one day, then have 2 to 3 days until the next heavy lift, should I maintain the same caloric intake on each day, or should I reduce calories the farther I go out from the last lift? And what about during a cut? I absolutely positively do not believe in reducing calories on non-training days. You find your proper macros that work for you, whether it's a deficit for a cut or a surplus for a gain or whatever. I truly believe that you need those same macros, you need those same nutrients just as much for the recovery process as you do to power yourself through the workouts. Obviously, if you're using some targeted ketogenic approach like I do and many others do, meaning if you're using some carbohydrate around your workouts for greater, energy and endurance or whatever, obviously that would be taken out because you're not training. But I don't deviate on my caloric ceiling at all, whether it's a training day or a non-training day. My body is going to soak up those nutrients like a sponge for recovery because, as we know, as I harp on this all the time, recovery is just as or more important in some cases than the training itself. So I'll often say, it's a third training, a third diet, and a third recovery, or equal amounts of all three, whatever, clever way you want to put it. That's a very, very, very important thing. The recovery process is so important, and you need those raw materials to help in that recovery process. So I would definitely keep those the same. And in a cut, when I'm cutting, I get to a certain caloric ceiling in a deep deficit, and whether I'm training that day or not, those macros stay exactly the same because a cut's a cut's a cut, a deficit is a deficit is a deficit. You're going to need that protein every day to help preserve lean mass. So if you're not training or you are training, the same rule applies. And as long as you're maintaining that deficit, you're certainly not going to put on any body fat. You're just going to keep reducing it and so on and so forth. So yeah, don't worry about that. So, okay. I think that's a good episode. Not too long, right? I'm trying to shorten these up a little bit. I'm trying to give more content and have shorter episodes. How would that be? That'd be cool, because this is fun. So, to recap, we've got some cool things going on in the community, meaning we're working on a community, the Ketogenic Bodybuilding community, where we're going to have our own member forums that you'll be able to join for free, just like a Facebook group or something of that nature, but without the worry of censorship and Big Brother and all of these things. And we're hoping to have that launched as early as Thanksgiving, but I would definitely keep you up to date on that. Hey, I forgot to mention it, but if you're watching on YouTube, it would mean a lot to me if you would click the subscribe button and the notification bell. That goes a long way in helping support the channel and support what we do and getting the message out to others and bringing us up into the recommended video categories. If you're following on one of the major podcast networks that actually has a sort of a subscribe or a follow feature like Spotify and iTunes, I would greatly appreciate it if you would hit those buttons, and even more if you could leave a review. That also helps me as well, and I truly, truly appreciate that. Good reviews preferably. I'd like to maintain that 5-star rating if I could. That would be a nice thing, but hey, if I suck, I suck. Let me know, and then I'll try to do better. Hey, I coach. I don't know if you knew that or not. I have a thriving online coaching business. I work with a lot of wonderful people. I've got room for more. I suspect that in the coming years, I'll be going to one-on-one internet coaching, maybe close to full-time. That's where the industry is going, and I really do enjoy it. And that would give me the freedom to do more things in as far as creating content for you people and doing cool things to that regard. So go to robgoodwin.com, ROBGOODWIN. That talks about all my coaching programs. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. Let me know if there's anything I need to explain to you or how anything works, and I'd be glad to do that. So, but in the meantime, now that things, I'm back from my mini vacation, I'm hoping to pump out one a week now. I usually do them on Tuesdays or Thursdays, and I usually have them edited and up the same day or the next day. So I really do appreciate your support. So thank you for everything. Until the next episode, go train your ass off, eat a big steak, get lots of rest, and enjoy your life. Peace.